All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Zero Waste in Hospitality. I'm your host, Stacy Savage, aka the Texas Trash Talker. I'm a zero waste expert and recycling nerd of 20 years, and I'm founder and owner of Zero Waste Strategies. We're an environmental consulting firm, and we work with companies as well as local government agencies, institutions, and other types of business clients in order to help them reduce waste, to increase revenue, deepen their customer loyalty, and to empower their employees. Um, we're going to go ahead and get right into today's topic. Just before that, some quick housekeeping as far as if you have any comments or questions, go ahead and type them into the chat. We're streaming right now on X, LinkedIn, our Facebook business page, as well as our YouTube business page. So if you do have any comments or questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. Hopefully they're coming through in real time on my end so I can answer them for you live. That's what I promote this to be, is a live Q&A, but sometimes our streaming platform does not fulfill their end and does not send me what you're saying. So go ahead and, try it anyway. I will look to other social media platforms that we're streaming on my cell phone here in case we are missing out on any of your comments and questions coming through, because I do want to make sure you feel heard and that you're getting your questions answered. So if you are joining us right now live, go ahead and drop your name and where you're from. Would love to know who's chiming in from the US or outside the US borders. And then also, what kind of industry you're in as well. Or you can drop your company name if you feel comfortable doing that. That's fine also. But today we're going to tackle really zero waste in hospitality, and we're going to have a strong focus on organics, mainly food waste. So I'm going to bring up a quick presentation, just some slides. While I do that, I'm going to be shifted down here to the right-hand side of your screen. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here with our first slide. So Zero Waste Strategies works again with some pretty stellar organizations. You can see some of our clients here, and we've been around for quite a while, since 2013, and we educate our clients regarding circular economy. So right now we're in a linear economy, and what that means is that we have a take it, make it, dump it kind of in economy. It's very linear, it's destructive, and it's all extraction based. So think lumber to build your home and build your furniture. Think crude oil in order to provide the world plastics. So it's all about extracting the raw natural resources out of the earth, refining them, mining them, putting them into a new product, and then shipping them out, transporting them, getting them onto our consumer store shelves. And then boom, they're right in front of us. That's what we see at Walmart and Best Buy and our local grocery stores. So it's a linear economy right now, because once it gets home to our office or our home, wherever we bring it, and we're going to be using that product, we don't really have a lot of options outside of just your regular municipal recycling programs. And many cities across the US do not still have recycling or curbside composting programs for organics. So they're with people that don't have many options as far as curbside recycling or organics, they have zero option. Some of us that do have those services through our municipality, or maybe even a private hauler that we contract, or maybe it's at your business, right? That you've got these services. We have some options to properly, divert our materials away from landfills, but unfortunately, a large swath of the country does not have those programs. And so, what happens when those materials are done with, and you don't have those recycling programs that go to landfill, right? Um, and a lot of times, those materials are organics, which is the food waste. that a lot of businesses that have food permits put out to the curb or in their business dumpster, right? And unless they've got the composting, and you would have to either contract a private hauler or you would have to go through your municipal government services for that. So there's about 40% of the US waste stream is actually made of organic material, which is your food waste and yard waste. So, what's our solution here? We want to get to a circular economy. We want to close the loop. So, we do this through zero waste, and zero waste is really defined as a global goal of 90% or more waste diversion from landfills and incinerators. If we can get there by 2040, great. Sooner, even better. But many projections are showing that 2040 is kind of a pipe dream at this point, and there's a lot of new products that are coming to the market that are kind of using old technologies and old material um, strategies. Think about how your computer is encased and how your cell phone is made, and are there any new technological advances to make those more circular processes as far as the material selection and the upstream innovation that happens in the design and engineering phase that you and I as customers don't have any say in. We only have a say in how things are handled once we consume what's on the store shelves in front of us, and what happens whenever we bring it home to our house or to the office and we use it. Do we recycle it properly? Is there a recycling program in place at all? Is there, an organics program that we can use? Do we have those options, those avenues as consumers? And a lot of times it's no. But so a part of circularity is getting companies to bring back or to take back their own products. So you look at companies that have electronics like Dell and HP, where they have to take back, in some states by law, they have to take back and recycle responsibly for their consumers for free. So there's a kind of this take back piece. I don't know if you can see here in the graph here by an organization called BioCycle, who's kind of the early on adopters of these practices here. So producer take back, you can see on the left where there's a little computer, an old style computer that we had back in the late 80s, early 90s. That the take back programs are really critical piece of the zero waste and circular economy as well. So you can see that there's a whole there's a holistic approach to a particular product's design, and it's designed for recycling at the end of life. It's designed for being in a take back program whenever it's obsolete or whenever it's broken. So these companies that are putting out their materials and their products on our store shelves that we buy and take home and we use, we need to have an avenue rather than it just going to our dumps that are typically taxpayer owned, right? So moving on to our next slide here, the what I like to call is the wasteberg. You can see that the tip is just the tip. The vast majority of the issue is underneath the water that you don't see. Same thing with our waste stream. So for every pound of waste that we put out to the curb, there's about 71 pounds of waste that are produced upstream. You also have to factor in transportation and manufacturing emissions as well, and the time, labor, water, especially if we're talking about food, the water that it takes in order to grow the produce and the proteins that we're providing for our customers. So landfills are really one of the largest sources of greenhouse gas emissions, and methane from organic waste, whenever that rots in a landfill, instead of being composted, it puts out about 72 times more potent gas through methane emissions, more potent than carbon dioxide. So a 90% waste reduction I know you can't see this behind my my little square here at the bottom right. But this is saying that 90% waste reduction, if we do go zero waste as a country, would take 21 coal-fired power plants offline. That would be the equivalent of reduction in emissions. So just something to think about whenever you are rolling your cart out to the curb, or whenever your hauler is coming to pick up your business dumpsters, about how much waste is in there and how much was produced further upstream in order for that to even be in existence and in your dumpster, right? So when we talk about organics, this is not the organics aisle in your grocery store. This is not your organic produce. This is anything that comes from plants or animals. So think about your fruit and veggie peels, your bones and oyster shells, shrimp shells. That would be organic, right? Your paper towels where you wash your hands, maybe in the back of house at your restaurant. Even yard clippings, even manure would be considered organic material. Even these containers, like the brown bags and the egg carton you can see here, those are both made of paper, right? So that would be considered organic. Now, food waste reduction has been kind of staple in our society since the Depression era in the early 1900s. And the US Department of Agriculture has really been pushing this narrative for quite some time. I think we kind of lost our way a little bit in the decades of debauchery in the maybe the 70s and 80s, maybe early 90s. There was a booming economy, and people were ultimate consumers, and they didn't really have to think about the long-term effects of their consumeristic habits. So now that we're in kind of a downturn in our economy, reuse, uh, refabrication, remanufacturing, reselling, upselling, or upcycling, downcycling, composting, all of these are tactics that we use to conserve our natural resources and conserve the materials that have already been extracted, refined, and made into a particular type of material, like a plastic, right? So this is providing additional stewardship over those materials that have already been mined and refined and produced. So capturing that and making sure they don't hit landfills and they don't hit burn facilities like incinerators is highly critical. So here are some shocking statistics on food waste that might make your jaw drop. So this is from a City of Austin 2015 study. The city conducted a community-wide waste diversion study and found about 37% of the whole waste stream that they studied. And this is materials that came from businesses and residential homes as well. So this organic material that you can see here, about 37%, that fits right in the national average of 30 to 40%. So we're on the, Austin, that's where I'm at. Hi, Austin, go Horns. The city is shown that we fit right into the 30 to 40% organic waste stream. And so 37% is on the little bit of a higher end. And, people see Austin, or the city of Austin, as kind of a a beacon of hope, if you will, to of sustainability. And it just goes to show here, and hopefully in the last 9 years, there's been quite an increase in organics reduction to landfill, seeing as the city of Austin has a business recycling policy for businesses that hold a food permit. And not only do those businesses have to recycle, they have to divert organic material from the waste stream. And so there's going to be a shift, whenever these policies come online. There's a learning period, of course, but businesses are really starting to see that their waste percentages are starting to shift quite drastically whenever the amount of recycling requirements goes up and the amount of organics diversion requirements go up. Now, maybe you don't live in a city that has an ordinance like this, but that doesn't mean that you don't have options. Even if you may not have a compost hauler or a compost facility near you as a business, You can still do all kinds of things that don't require a paid composting service. So another statistic is that inside the 1.3 billion tons of food that's wasted, remember that 30 to 40%, there's 43 trillion gallons of water that's also wasted. So 25% of our fresh water supply is used to produce food that just goes to the dump. And that is a travesty, seeing as one in, I believe now it's 1 in 7 Americans don't know where their next meal is going to come from. And that's usually our elderly and community as well as children. But 40% of our waste stream is food waste that is, that could have been salvaged, that could have been saved. Hey, Kathleen, thanks for joining. Good to see you. That's my sister-in-law, y'all. Or not my sister-in-law, but my sister's sister-in-law. Family ties. So the next one here is the amount of food wasted in the U.S. each day would fill the Rose Bowl Stadium. So this represents $165 billion each year of wasted food. So think about the Rose Bowl and then the whole thing just being filled up with food. That's what we're wasting every single day in just the US alone. So that's pretty jaw-dropping to me. So the next thing that we have here is the food recovery hierarchy. This is what the EPA used for the last 20 years or so. And this talks about the hierarchy. You can see this inverted triangle down here where incineration and landfill is the very, very bottom. And landfill and incineration is considered disposal. And all the colored bars up at the top of that is considered diversion. So there's a big difference between disposal and then diversion, or excuse me, diversion and then disposal. Disposal is way down here where incineration and landfill live. So just to go over these really quick. So source reduction, that would be equivalent to a business having inventory controls, first in, first out. They have product dating whenever the company that you order your food from brings it to your location and you do the offloading, the truck offloads and put it in your cold walk-in, your cold storage, that you get the dating on there so that you can do proper food rotation. You don't want a box of brand new lemons or limes up front. You want them in the back so that they can take a little time to ripen and off gas as well. The ones that you have gotten a week or two before, those are the ones you want to pull to the front and you want to use them before they go to spoil. Next would be feeding hungry people. So legal food donation is a thing in the U.S. through the U.S. The 1996 Good Samaritan Act under Bill Clinton's administration. So you can, if you have a food permit, and this is for only food permitted businesses, if you've got a food permit, then you can legally donate foods to a food redistribution nonprofit. Now, maybe that's a food bank. In Austin, we have what's called Keep Austin Fed, and it's a redistribution organization where they work with the local food bank so that there's more reach. They've got more volunteers, and they can take smaller orders and get them into smaller communities as well. There's a lot of food deserts in the Austin area also, where if you even go, 5 miles in a radius around a particular community in Austin, usually lower income, underserved communities, there's no groceries to be found. It's usually your fast food chains and convenience stores where a lot of people get the food that they're going to feed their families. So there's a lot of food deserts out there where there just isn't any access to nutritious food. So legal food donation. This is where you would keep a manifest of all of your food donations to that certified nonprofit that can do food redistribution. They can collect it from you and keep it cold in proper safe time and temperature standards, right, through the health code. And then also being able to attach that to your taxes so that you can get a tax write-off. So you would, in your manifest, you would detail what you donated, which group you donated it to, how much, volume or weight. Let's say you donated 200 loaves of bread because a particular, catering event canceled on you, and you had already ordered the product, and you don't have another one coming up before, some of this food is going to spoil. Then you would call and make a donation request, a pickup request from this food redistribution group, and they would come and collect it from you, and then you get the tax write off. So you would um, detail where you donated to, the date, how much, what type of food, and the fair market value, how much you paid for it. And then you get a 15% return, or a 15% fair market value tax credit from the IRS. So if you do that throughout the entire year, you're going to be able to recoup some of those costs, and you'll be able to feed hungry people in your community. That's a great green marketing tactic as well. So also, if foods are spoiling and they're not safe for human consumption, but they're still okay to feed animals, you can work with local farmers and ranchers to feed livestock. There's also industrial uses that would be like your biofuels. This is kind of yellow grease from your yellow grease traps, your fry grease. A lot of times, there are companies that will come in and pump your fry grease out of the grease trap, right? And some of those companies will then sell that grease to a biodiesel company, where they'll actually make diesel from your fry grease. And if you've got the proper conversion on your diesel engine, you're going to be able to fill up your engine or your gas tank with biodiesel. There's also, beautification, which would be your mulch, right? So you would be able to use mulch, mulched all the Christmas trees that get mulched after December, and it's free for the taking. The community comes and grabs truckloads of mulch, and they go and put it down on their own property to reduce erosion, soil erosion, and to keep the weeds down on their own beautification projects. A lot of cities will contract with local composters or local mulchers. Well, they'll get that material and they'll do beautification projects in the median, like road medians, and plants, shrubs, trees, wherever they've planted for those beautification projects. And then, as you can see in the orange, composting is near the bottom. Composting may be a very convenient way to get rid of food waste at a business, but it's the only paid service in this whole list right here. Of course, barring the landfill and incineration, you're going to have to pay for that, because it's hauling as well. If you do on-site composting and you've got a tumbler and you're not producing that much, you can probably do that. Definitely don't want to put, well, I'll get to that later. But if you do have a composting kind of side bin tumbler type thing and you're not producing too much, you want to have a good balance of your dry materials and your wet materials. So you don't want a sloshy mess. But if you want to leave it up to the pros and have them come and pick it up for you, you can book a composting service with them, where they're going to come and haul your composting, your food, your organics away, and they'll leave you with the clean bins so that you can start to fill those. They'll take the old bins, clean them out, and take the organics to their property for processing. And then, of course, you get to the disposal tactics, which are your landfill and incineration. So this is called the grocery cycle, and something that we can do in business, but also at home. This is kind of scalable. So you can identify the things on here that you can easily, I guess, incorporate into your own home kitchen. And one thing would be that you can take inventory of your household food stocks. So take a look in your pantry, take a look in your freezer, your refrigerator. Maybe you've got a deep freeze in the garage somewhere. And just take an inventory of what you already have on hand, and then make your list of things that you need to restock on, so that you're not over purchasing things that you already have. And research kind of what's on hand recipes. If you've done your inventory check, but you can't get to the grocery store in the next couple of days to do that restock, then there's going to be some some recipes that you can just type in the ingredients that you have, and Google or AI or whoever is going to pop up, some kind of recipe. You can just throw it in Chat GPT, and they'll boom, a whole recipe will come out with the different types of ingredients that you've listed, and you'll have this nice dinner or breakfast or whatever. So you can type in those ingredients and get a kind of what's on hand recipe, rather than having to go out and spending money right away to build out some kind of new recipe. Just use what you have on hand already. And then consider smaller purchases, which would happen more frequently. So instead of doing every other week grocery hauls and spending $600, maybe you do once a week, half that, half the money, and you can space it out a little bit better. This reduces your food spoilage so that you're not having those fuzzy strawberries pop up 3 weeks later because they were pushed to the back of the refrigerator. It's happened to all of us, I'm sure. So also look at bulk purchasing and bringing your own containers. You can bring your own containers, and many stores have those bulk purchasing section where you can get dry goods like pastas, beans, rices, your kind of legume family, even coffee. So if you've got your own bags, you can usually bring those. If you've got your own kind of glass or silicone containers, you can bring those too, and just make sure that the weight on those is tared out. You don't want to be paying for the weight of the container. You want to pay for the weight of the product only. Really look into more of your frozen foods. I would get away from the packaged goods, the prepackaged meals and such. Um, unless they're made on site, a lot of times if they come from production facilities, there's going to be packed most of the time with chemicals and things that you just don't want to put in your body. So I would look more at frozen foods that can be held for a much longer time, and things that can freeze well, like cheeses and deli meats that can freeze well. You buy them in bulk, you break them down into smaller containers, and you put some of the containers in the refrigerator that you're going to use in the proper amount of time, and put the rest in the freezer, and you can just break them out as you need them and let them fall, for an hour or two. But there's all sorts of ways that you can do, use your freezer. It doesn't all have to necessarily go into the refrigerator. So I would absolutely encourage that. So this other one on the bottom right, I know you can't see it, but it's food. Food rotation. So like we had discussed earlier, first in, first out. Whenever you've got food, it's called FIFO in the restaurant industry. So when you have a FIFO system in place, you can make sure that you've got proper dating, and then you've got that proper rotation. So if it goes in first and it's been in there the longest, it needs to be the first coming out whenever you're ready to use it. So making sure that the proper dating is on there, and that it's legible so that everyone can read it, and it's in a prominent place. You don't want to put it on the bottom of the box or whatnot. So the date of purchase and the date of delivery to your facility or your restaurant or wherever is really important. And then reuse the scraps for stocks and soups and sauces. So the way that I do my composting is that I've got those big 16-ounce salad containers. I've gone through 2 of those, and I just use those. I put them in my freezer. And anytime I have food waste, banana peels, eggshells, coffee grounds, tea bags without the staples, remember, and then also, all kinds of avocado peels and pods, and potato slices that fell on the floor, whatever. You can put those into a bag or a container, and you can keep them in the freezer. And once you've got, all of your veggie scraps separated out, and you put them in like a gallon freezer bag, then you can use that and mix it with water, 2-3 gallons of water, and you can make a nice soup stock and get all that nice veggie flavoring, so that you don't have to go out and buy veggie stock. And then what does this other one say? Oh, donations. That's what the last one says at the top right. Donations. So we talked about food donations that are legal under the Good Samaritan Act for businesses, but you can also make food donations. They need to be non-perishable, and of course, we're going to work with nonprofits like our county food bank or the city food bank, and work with other groups that are doing a can drive, or they're taking boxed macaroni and cheese, or whatever you can do to help with foods that you may not want to eat. Maybe you're doing a cupboard cleanse and you're bringing everything out of your pantry and you're looking at expiration dates and you're doing that food rotation, right? You definitely want to make sure that things aren't spoiled, but that's why you know foods that can come from regular Joe Schmoes like you and me, the regular citizenry, they need to be non-perishable. Other businesses can give perishable food items because they work with those redistribution nonprofits that can keep it to the proper time and temperature standards through the health department, right? So we don't really have that strategy or that structure available to us as the everyday consumer, the everyday citizen. But if you are able to donate dry goods, please do. So we're going to test your compost knowledge, and you can put a T in the comments for true or F for false. So we're going to run through this real quick. After I ask the question, I'm going to give you maybe 3 seconds to type in your answer: T for true, F for false. So here we go. Question 1. Paper hand towels can be recycled but not composted. Answer is false. So paper hand washing towels should never be recycled. And like the long fibers in office paper, the fibers in paper towels are too short to have any real value to a recycling processor. However, they are excellent for compost as they bring a mixed balance to the wet materials. So next question is, in, what does that say? Industrial. There's a slide count behind in front of me right now. It says industrial composters can process meat, bone, and dairy products. All right, so here we go. 3, 2, 1. Type your answer. True. So if your city offers curbside compost pickup for residential homes and or multifamily dwellings like apartment complexes, it's likely that the program allows meat, bone, and dairy products. But always check first with the city or the compost hauler, the company that processes your materials. And this is really due to the facility's capacity for extremely high temperatures that are needed to break down these items. The proteins and the bone from animal products are very hard to break down, and you need the proper high temperatures, and you also need the proper bacteria to do that. So you never want to put meat, bone, and dairy in your backyard compost tumblers or community garden compost bins. It's just going to attract pests because those don't get hot enough, and it will not break down the protein structures. So moving on to the next one here. I hope you are a Princess Bride fan. My Gen Xers, where you at, will back me up on this. And if you'll remember, the question here is that compost attracts rodents. And there's a scene in The Princess Bride. If you haven't seen it, it's a cult classic. I would highly suggest it. It's really funny. This is Princess Buttercup on the right-hand side, where she's in the red, and she says, Westley, the boy that she's in love with. Westley, what about the ROUSs, rodents of unusual size? And Westley says, I don't think they exist. And the very next scene is him getting attacked by one. So if you see the movie and you see this, then you'll understand. And then the answer for this is false. So, well, it's mostly false. If you see, there's a little asterisk up there. If you're correctly balancing the percentage of dry materials that produce carbon and nitrogen, with the wet materials that provide the liquid, like the food waste, then you won't get this sludgy material, but it'd be more like a dark, dense, power packed soil amendment. It kind of crumbles like chocolate cake. And so otherwise, you might get visitors like rodents, raccoons, flies, etc. Also, make sure you use the compost bins that have tight lids that either screw on or they have a locking device where it caps it down and makes a seal so that you don't have odor issues. So, some food waste hacks during the holidays as well. So, this is really important. The use by versus the sell by versus the best by date. What does it all mean? What's the difference? So, these dates are actually labeled on food products by the manufacturer, not the government. Again, products product dating is through the manufacturer, not the government. So the dates that point to peak freshness, that is determined by the manufacturer and when the quality of the product starts to decline. And the dates don't really have anything to do with food spoilage. It's really about peak freshness, right? And besides baby formula, there's really no requirement for the FDA for expiration dates on any food. So the FDA is actually working right now with an industry-led effort to reduce confusion around these you know dates that confuse consumers and that produce a lot of food waste because people see the date and they're like, oh, got to check it. Don't want to get sick, right? But that's not what those dates mean. So the FDA is working with industry to do a more consistent best if used by date. You may have already seen this on some of the products that you've brought home. So, other tactics besides composting of food waste, and this is really important for businesses because remember, we talked earlier on when we were talking about that inverted triangle, the food recovery hierarchy. We talked about repurposing and reusing foods. So, maybe you can find a way to um, kind of just have a field day with your leftovers. You can convert them into other recipes. If you've got a lasagna that was made but never put out to the public, let's say on a buffet line, you can make sure to keep it in the walk in cooler. And then the next day, maybe you don't want to serve lasagna again, but you can make it into a lasagna soup. Maybe you can put it in with a little bit of water, dilute it, and you can make a lasagna soup. So you can think about different ways that you can craft the foods that you've already made and just reuse them in a different way. You can also repurpose things like day old bread, make it into bread pudding, make it into salad croutons, even over ripened avocados. Of course, we love guacamole, and then soon to expire fruits can go into smoothies or agua frescas as well. So these are all things that you can do to make sure that the foods that are about to expire get the highest priority within your business so that you're not paying for it twice. You're paying for it once to come in from the food distributor. Once it sits and it sits and it sits and it starts to spoil and you can't use it anymore, it's no longer good for donation. You can't send it to a farmer or a rancher, then twice. You're going to pay for it whenever it goes out the back end into either the compost bin and the hauler's going to come and pick it up, or if you don't have a compost system, it's going to go to the trash bin, all right? The dumpster, the hauler's still going to come pick it up. Those haulers get paid whether your dumpsters are full or not. So rather than have them cart air off your property and still get paid, you want to optimize your dumpsters, right? You want to make sure that you're tracking how much is going out and be able to sit down with your hauler and to renegotiate that contract. Maybe you don't need 12 dumpsters on your property. Maybe you just need 6. Maybe they don't need to be 10 cubic yards. Maybe they just need to be 4. So you have to think about how you can optimize and save money on reducing your waste to landfills so that you can funnel your cash savings over to your new programs like recycling and food waste composting, or utilizing the hierarchy further upstream that you're using those free methods like reduce, reuse, repurpose, donation before you get to the paid hauler fee of composting. So another thing that you can do to ensure that your foods are not going to spoil is making sure that you have proper appliance temperatures. This is especially for my restaurateurs and those in the hospitality industry that cook food for others. So your resorts, your theme parks, your sports stadiums, anything that where you've got those larger cold walk-ins, those freezers, those big refrigerators, it really keeping them at that certain level and making sure that the refrigeration systems in check, that you are getting them routinely checked from a certified maintenance technician. That it's really going to aid in reducing the strains of spoilage mold, bacterias, and foodborne pathogens. So keep keep thinking about how you can keep your equipment maintained so that you don't have an outage, you don't have a spent coil or something like that, so that you have to get someone out there and all that food goes to waste because it's been 6 hours. Instead, keeping it tip top shape and putting a lot of time and attention into your equipment that your company has spent thousands and thousands of dollars on. Um, Not to mention the food that's already been purchased, right? Don't want to let that go to spoil. So, a couple of things that you can do to kind of learn at your own pace. Here are some links that you can look at. Zero Waste International Alliance is really it's the godfather organization. It's a global organization of zero waste elders that have um, really put the standards in place. About that 90% waste reduction is the standard or more. That the hierarchy is there for reduction and reuse, repurposing, recycling, and that they've got a wealth of knowledge on their website. It's just zwia.org, zwia.org. The next is the Green Building Council. So this is the organization, a membership organization that has thousands of members globally and, or excuse me, in the US, where they administered the LEED certifications, LEED, for energy, water conservation, green building. They also administered the True Zero Waste Facility certification, which my company is certified in administering the True Zero Waste Facility certification standards. So if you need True Zero Waste certification, let me know. Also, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. This is an England, British-based organization, but they do global work, and they also promote the circular economy. And then the Five Gyres Institute really targets ocean plastics. And then there's also Story of Stuff. This is really cute. It's they've got a great way of putting very large 30,000 foot view topics down into a very simplified 30-minute cartoon vignette that I think it's great for kids. If you need to explain big topic items around sustainability, this is where you want to go. So it's really neat. It's engaging. It's funny, and so they've done a great job with really distilling down the key components of these very large topics that are a lot of times hard to wrap our own heads around as adults. So if there's topics that interest you on the Story of Stuff project, give those cartoon vignettes a little watch. Bring your kids into the folds and help answer their questions as well. So the last question I have for you all is, if we're not for zero waste, how much waste are we for? And with that, you've got all my contact information. Go ahead and screenshot this if you want. But I will be posting the recording of this video to all of the streaming pages. And you can definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn, through our website, which we have listed here. You can give me a call. Again, I'm in the Austin area. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you. We do have the True Zero Waste Facility certifications. We also offer waste audits where we're up to our elbows for 6 hours in your waste stream. So if you need to get a good baseline measurement of what's in your waste stream, what's in your recycling stream, how much food waste is going out the back end of your business. We can determine all of that for you. We also do staff training that's really fun and engaging. We do presentations like this with games and test your knowledge pop quizzes and that type of thing, so that it really kind of stays top of mind for people, and it really gets them kind of emotionally invested as they're having fun going through these challenges, testing their knowledge and such. So it just makes it a lot of fun, builds that employee morale as well. And we've just released a new ebook as well, and it's called The Zero Waste Family, and it gives a zero waste tactics for every room of your home, and even for kids items. There's kids games, kids coloring pages that all have to do with recycling and zero waste, as well as a zero waste checklist, additional resources and educational links in there, as well as giving you tips, tricks, and hacks for lowering your waste while you travel with your family during vacations, even party planning, events, celebrations, and that type of thing. So if you're interested in purchasing our ebook, it's only $8 on Amazon, and it's called The Zero Waste Family, a guide for cost saving solutions. So you can go ahead and check that out. Let me know if you want me to send the link over, and I will go ahead and post the link to this recording a little bit later, either today or tomorrow. And I appreciate everybody being here. Again, Stacy Savage, the Texas Trash Talker, signing off. Take care.